Okay, so we are going now to have a look and practice how to answer exam questions when it comes to quotes coming from the story or later on the novel. Because in another unit, you will be doing the same technique for a scene taken from an act from the play of Shakespeare, or you will be doing the same for the novel, and you will be doing the same for short stories. So the learning you are going to get today is really, really, really important. So we're going to start by a video that will give you tips on how to analyze a quote. Pay extra attention. I will be asking you questions after the video. Any questions before we play the video? Anyone? Any questions?
One of the most difficult and the most important things to grasp is how do you break down a quote? How do you analyze a quote? Because it's all good doing that when you're with your teacher, but how do you do it yourself? Now, when it comes to analyzing a quote, I call it vomit, because you almost want to vomit on your page. You almost want to puke on your page. Now, when I show you guys an example, you will get what I mean. Now, let's begin, guys. So the quote that we're going to analyze today is, let's go for a Christmas Carol, and let's look at the quote, solitary as an oyster. That's the quote that we're going to be looking at for now. The first thing you do with any quote is you begin to break it down for language. Now, if we look at this quote as a whole, solitary as an oyster. As, when you compare two things using like or as, what has the writer used? The writer has used a simile. So that's the first language device that we can pick out, that the writer has used a simile. Now, if we're going to zoom in, we can zoom in to the word oyster. Now, oyster is a noun.
If you've ever tried to play piano, I bet one of these four problems happened to you.
And then we can zoom in to the adjective solitary. Okay, now that's the language part of our analysis done. That's the red pen out of the way. We now have picked out our three language techniques, if you like. We got our noun, our adjective, and our simile. Now let's start with the noun oyster. Guys, oyster, I'm going to make a note. An oyster, I'm going to write down duplicity. What does that mean? An oyster, guys, is almost double in nature. What does that mean? What do we mean by that? An oyster, guys, is hard on the outside and is soft on the inside. An oyster is hard on the outside and soft on the inside. Now, what can we say about Scrooge using this quote? Maybe we can imply that everything Scrooge does is based upon image. He's not really a nasty person. He's not really a harsh person because he's soft on the inside. But he has the exterior. He has an outer shell that is very, very hard. He has an outer shell that is very, very unwelcoming. This is based upon him being described to an oyster. Now, let's take it a little bit further. How do you get to the soft core of an oyster? How do you get to the soft core? You must remove the harder shell. Therefore, we can argue that from this quote, is the writer foreshadowing? Is the writer giving us links of what is to come? That Scrooge as a character will remove this harder shell, this harder outside. Now, this is all done based upon the noun oyster. Now, let's flip it this way. He is solitary. Now, guys, when it comes to the word solitary, it is an adjective, but what does it imply? It implies you are lonely. That's what it implies. But it's something more than that. For me, this loneliness is forced. Why do I say that? I say that because when I think of the word solitary, I think of, I'll go this way, actually no, I'll do it here. Guys, when I think of solitary, I think of a prison. I think of somebody who is locked up. Let me fix that, guys. I think of somebody who is locked up. Now, guys, why do I call it vomit on a page? Because as you can see, as I'm thinking, I'm writing. I've not rehearsed this. Now, he's lonely, the loneliness is forced. This implies it's prison, and therefore he's locked up. But then if we're going to say Scrooge is locked up, it begs the question, who's locked him up? Who is Scrooge a victim of? Now, this is where we bring in our AO3. If I was looking at this bottom part of the quote, at this point of our analysis, I would link this and this to AO3. Now, what would I say? I would say that Scrooge as a character is a victim of capitalism. Now, what do I mean when I say AO3? Guys, AO3 is looking at the background of the text. Now, we've said that Scrooge, based upon this quote, is soft on the inside, hard on the outside. Now, what's made him hard on the outside? Possibly it's the fact that he's been living a solitary life, a lonely life. But the loneliness isn't voluntary, the loneliness is forced. He's been forced because of the adjective. It didn't say lonely as an oyster, solitary. It implies he's been locked up. Based upon this and based upon this, you can argue that Scrooge is the way he is because of capitalism. Capitalism is the ideology, is the belief that the most important thing in life is money and yourself. And because Scrooge has believed this, because Scrooge has soaked it in and become a victim of this, what is he? He is lonely and he has a hard exterior. But personally, guys, that's enough to analyze a quote. But let's finish it off by looking at the simile. Now, guys, let's pause there for 1 second. Look at what I'm doing when I'm analyzing the quote. I'm just writing everything I'm thinking onto the board. Whether or not it's accurate in the beginning, you write it down and then you explore it and then it makes sense. We think about what the writer is trying to say. What is the writer trying to say? What else is he trying to say? This is all inference. Now, guys, let's finish it. Now, solitary as an oyster. What is the overall meaning of this quote, in my opinion, based upon this analysis? What is the overall inference that we can make? Now, if I was making an overall judgment of the entire simile, I would make a point, guys. I would make a point that Scrooge is a character who, number one, he is a victim of society. But number two, he is a character that, just like an oyster, he needs the outside shell to be cracked. Now, in our text, who are the characters that crack his shell? The characters that crack Scrooge's shell are indeed the ghosts. Now, I'm going to end my analysis there because if we're not careful, we're going to move away from this and start talking about wider events. And I don't want to do that yet. I want this video to focus on this and this only. So, guys, let me talk you guys through it one more time. This was our quote. Our quote was, Scrooge is as solitary as an oyster. I picked out 3 language techniques: the adjective, the noun, and the simile. We started off by talking about how the noun itself shows that maybe Scrooge has a duplicity of nature. Maybe Scrooge has a double life. Because just like an oyster, which is hard on the outside and soft on the inside, Scrooge is also hard on the outside, soft on the inside. Meaning, maybe he's not really a nasty person. Maybe it's an act. Maybe it's a performance. But really, deep down inside, he's a soft, kind-hearted person. He has to portray a particular image. Then we moved on to the adjective solitary. Solitary implied that Scrooge was lonely, but the loneliness here is forced because of the adjective solitary. It implies that he's in prison and he's locked up. Now, we all know Scrooge is not in prison. So what is that talking about? That's when we link it to capitalism. Scrooge is indeed a prisoner, but he is a prisoner, he is a victim of capitalism, where money has become the most important thing in his life. And finally, we said if we were going to bring the entire quote together, solitary as an oyster, based upon what we learnt here, we can then say that Scrooge may be a victim of a society. And therefore, just the way you have to crack an oyster to get to the soft middle, Scrooge as a character must be cracked. And the characters to crack Scrooge are indeed the ghosts. And therefore, the overall quote can be seen as foreshadowing the events to come. Now, I know you might be thinking, sir, what you just did, I can't do it. And if I'm going to be obvious, guys, you don't need to do what I just did. Just by you doing one of these three is enough. Because one of these three analysis is enough to produce a paragraph. What I want to show you guys is how you really thoroughly engage and how you really thoroughly break down a quote. Guys, don't forget with English, there's no right answers and there's no wrong answers, so long as you can prove everything you say. Everything I say is based upon the quote. I've not gone off task. Alright guys, I'm going to end the video here because I don't
Okay, so what is that? Was it lagged? You guys, can the other students tell me, did you watch the video or not? Jawad, Lareen, Muhammad, did you watch the video? I know, Yasser, you was watching, and you said it lagged. But what about the others? Are you in the class, students? Jawad, did you watch the video? Okay, perfect. So probably, Yasser, because you are in a car now, but anyway, I'm gonna share the link for you. You can watch it at any other time, Yasser. You just make a like, give me a like on the link, so to make sure that you received it. I shared the link of the video with you all in the chat box, okay? So please pay attention to what the teacher was explaining in the video. Still seen and was able to understand. Okay, so the video, the most important points you can come up with. Number one, there is nothing wrong, nothing correct 100% in the English language, as long as you can prove your point of view. That's why I encourage you to use your own words. There is like, it's not math, it's not science, it's appreciation, it's understanding, it's how you accept it, it's how you understand it, it's how you take it. So the most important vessel here is the words you are going to use to express your own opinion, how you interpret it. You don't have to copy and paste. You don't have to go to the internet in the first place, okay? So this is number one. Number two, when you have a quote, it is really important for you to look at the figurative of a speech or the figures that the writer is using, because they use figures for a reason. They wanted to give you an indication of the character, or they wanted to give you indication about the lesson. They wanted to give you indication about the irony in the story. Different purposes the writer can use it in the dialogue or in the quotation. Your role is to decode the quotation and tell me, what did you understand from this and that? Okay. The third thing is to tell me what is the significance of this quotation. Okay, perfect. Yes, sir. Okay, thank you. That's good that you were able to understand. That's great. Good to know. Okay, So it's always important for you to figure out what is the writer want to tell you. And now I'm going to give you, this is really, really, please class, take extra attention to, pay attention to what I'm telling you here. So you will have a question like this, exactly like this. Not the same content, of course, but the same format. And that question alone is worth 10 marks, okay? The question will be briefly comment on the following extracts. So you don't know the extract is taken from where or who is talking about it, who's this, who's that. You don't know. That's why I tell you the homework, you have to do it well, because I will give you extracts like this. You don't know it's taken from which story. That's why you must read the stories, or at least get an idea what each story is about. So you must, again, I emphasize on the word must, you must do the homework on the Google Classroom about the different stories, okay? At least you get an idea. All right, so you will have a question like this. I am utterly miserable at not having any jewels, not a single stone to wear. She replied, I shall look absolutely no one. I would almost rather not go to the party. Wear flowers, he said. They are very smart at this time of the year. For 10 francs, you could get 2 or 3 gorgeous roses. Before I proceed, can anybody guess? Can you guess? This is taken from which story? Anyone? For those of you who did some effort and read the stories, or did know what they will be studying in this unit, can anybody tell me what the extract is taken from which story, short story? No one? Well, some of you, yes, thank you, Jawad. Thank you, bravo. Yeah, I was going to just say that you did your homework. Thank you so much for that. Bravo, Jawad, bravo. It is taken from The Necklace, the short story, The Necklace. So how you are going to answer this question? Remember, students, that each point has a mark. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Each point will have 2 marks. If you miss any of these, you are not going to get the 10 marks for that question. It's an important question for you. That's why I'm gonna train you how to answer the question today. So first of all, and also the teacher in the video said that you have to respond in a paragraph form. You have to write the answer in a paragraph form. So the question will be only this. None of these will be there, only this. The prompt is only this. You have to take care that you put these. We're gonna discuss, I'm gonna place it on the Google Classroom, and we'll do the exercise over there. Don't worry about copying or taking screenshot or anything. So these must be there. So how to answer this question? You need to start using a paragraph. So our number 1, it should be in a paragraph. Then you identify the text, the name of the story, and the writer or the author. Okay, who is the author, who is the writer? Okay. Then you have to relate the extracted quote to its context. Remember when we talk about the setting, what is the context? So it's when, where this dialogue happened. Okay, you can add also why. When, where, why, this dialogue happened. Okay? And then you need to explain the significance, and this is important, the significance. What is the importance of this dialogue or the quotation, and not necessarily, by the way, to be a dialogue. It could be only one line or a quotation or something like the teacher explained in the video. They just give you one half of a statement, and you have to show the significance. What do we mean by significant? Meaning the role of this scene or the role of this quotation in the development of the plot construction. And also I want you to make difference between plot construction and theme. The theme is what is it about. The plot construction is the construction of the story itself. It is important to differentiate between theme, plot construction, and main ideas or development of ideas, okay? And you need to mention something related to the characterization, like the statement reveals what about the character. It gives you an idea what of the character, okay? You need also to mention something about the narrative technique or the metaphor or like the teacher explained to you that the writer uses the simile when he used as. What other things you can think of? Maybe irony, maybe foreshadowing, maybe contrast, any of those figures you need to talk about. Look how many points you need to talk about. Look how many points. If you miss any of these, you're gonna lose marks. Now, let's go give you example how to do this, okay? So you're going to do exactly like this. This excerpt is from The Necklace by Guy de Maupassant. So this is the name of the author. This is the name of the text or the story. This excerpt occurs at the house of Monsieur and Madame Lucille when he gave her 400 francs to buy a dress to attend the Ministry of Education party, or it's better to say the party of. Okay, the party, attend the party of the Ministry of Education. But she felt that the new dress is not sufficient for her to look like a classy woman among the rich people who will attend the party. So we understand now that Madame Lucille is not happy. Why? She feels ashamed. Okay, what next? She felt sad and wanted to get a piece of jewel too, because it is not enough to have a new dress, but she needs a jewel, a necklace or a brooch or anything that is like, you know, will make her look fancy. Her husband suggested wearing flowers instead. Look here, what did he say? Wear flowers. So her husband suggested wearing flowers instead. So this excerpt has a significance, the importance here. Look at what we're doing here now, the importance of this scene. What is the importance? It acts as a form of rising action. Remember, rising action towards borrowing the necklace. And the borrowing the necklace from Madame Forestier. And from here, we move on to the plot of the story, the climax of the story. The most important thing is that she's gonna borrow the necklace and then, you know, what will happen afterwards. So the plot of the story accelerates because of the necklace that she wants to borrow from the lady. So this scene is important, and this scene, I can call it foreshadowing. What is the meaning of foreshadowing? Please remember the term. It is foreshadowing. So the technique the writer uses here, he used foreshadowing. Foreshadowing is a literary device the writer uses to prepare you as a reader for what will happen next. So the writer paves the setting or paves the way for the big event in the story. This piece or this dialogue sheds the light on the character of Monsieur Lucille. Also, we know something about Monsieur Lucille. Any other husband might be angry, or he would say, I just gave you 400 francs, you bought a dress, that's enough. But he didn't do that. So we understand that this guy is a caring, loving husband. He sacrificed his own money that he was saving to buy a gun. Now, when you read the necklace, when you read the story, you will know that the man, the husband, was saving the money to buy a gun to go with his friends for a hunting season. But when his wife said, I don't have a dress, he sacrificed. He said, it's okay, I can wait, but I'm gonna give the money to my wife in order to look beautiful and as rich and as classy as the other women. So instead, he gave the money to his wife just to make her happy. So what do you understand about his character? It's important to tell me something about the character because of the dialogue is happening. You can tell, okay? So the wife, on the other hand, is not happy as she feels her husband is below her social class and poor. Okay, so this is exactly how you will be answering the question related to comment briefly or briefly comment on the following dialogue. It could be a dialogue, it could be any other thing. Okay, so how to answer this question? I am gonna give it to you on the chat in our Google Classroom. Do you have any questions? Anyone? Is this clear? Here are tips on how to answer the question. Briefly. Okay. Can you please confirm, everyone, you can see the post I just submitted on tips how to answer such a question? Can you go back and check that you can see them? Go to Google Classroom and confirm that you can see the tips I just shared with you. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Yes, yes, Muhammad. You can see it on Google Classroom?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So any comments, anything you think it's not easy, it's difficult, anything you're not sure how to do it, you can ask me now. Anyone? Okay. So since you do not have any issues with that, it looks like it's pretty clear. I am going to give you an opportunity to practice now. So this is going to be an exercise, a simple one to practice. This is an extract taken from one of the stories you are supposed to read in this unit. 6 short stories, you are supposed to read them. Can anybody tell me this is taken from which story? Huh? Anyone? Excellent. Bravo, Jawad. Sorry? What is it? Have cut out? What is the cutout? I don't understand, Jawad. What do you want to say? My voice cut out? I don't know, probably internet. Can you hear me now, everyone? Excellent. All right, so I'm gonna give you time. Now, you can go to the Google Classroom, okay? Let me share the Google Classroom here to see what you will be doing. So you are going to go to the story, short story of the death of a government clerk. And then you are going to practice doing the same technique, using the same tips I just shared with you on Google Classroom. So you are going to go to the Google Classroom over here, and then I'll give you time. Take your time to do it the best way possible. Imagine yourself, this is classwork. So this classwork, everybody should comment here, because I'm gonna take this comments and give you marks for class participation. Every one of you should answer this question. Do not post anything yet. You will post, you start posting at 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock. You know what? Make it 8:10. Maximum time, I'll give you 8:10. I want you to respond just as the way we explained it here. The way we explained it here, how you do it, put it in a form of a paragraph. So all of you, the reason I'm telling you that do not post anything yet, I want you all to post at the same time, because I don't want anybody to just copy from other people. I want to see what you write, okay? You're going to ask me, can I have a look at the internet? Okay, if you want to look, I don't mind. But again, please, when you write here, you need to write your own words. And you are going to give me explanation for the 5 points we talked about. Remember, what are they? Did I post it? Yes, here we go. These are the points. Paragraph. Can I edit here? I don't know. Can I edit here, guys? No? Okay. So these are the points. You write in a paragraph. You identify the text and the writer. You relate it to the context. When, where, why, what happened. Not necessarily to have a dialogue, but the quotation. It happened, who said it to who, when, where, and why. Then you need to explain the significance of the quotation here. What does it refer to, the development of the theme? What has to do with the plot? The summary of the story? And then shed light on the techniques the writer used. It might use foreshadowing, irony, any literary technique they used, and something related to the characters mentioned in the story. Okay, clear? Is the task clear, everyone?